But if that primary function is designed to help us, let's say, accurately perceive threat, that threat is then registered in our internal environment and brings on a physiologic cascade, an
Yes.
electrochemical cascade.
Yes, an electrochemical cascade. So what that means is that we perceive threat somehow through our five senses, either consciously or unconsciously. We're aware that's maybe even at an unconscious level. Let's say if you had a trauma associated with, I don't know, a dog bite in your childhood, and you even see a dog a block away, you could be reacting to, ooh, dog unsafe, without even it consciously entering your mind. You may not even be aware you saw a dog, yet your body is going into this, you know, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis overload of a lot of adrenaline, and suddenly you're feeling nervous and anxious. You could even go into a panic attack. As we know this as PTSD, we're reacting to things that we have associated our threat to survival, but our entire nervous system gets enrolled in this reaction to unsafe, unsafe, unsafe. So it's recruiting our organs, our glands, our muscles, our connective tissue, our blood vessels into preparing to activate to get ourselves away from the perceived threat.
And you're highlighting something really, really important. And I'd like to slow us down and just note the nuance in this piece. So we may not even be aware of the perception.
Right.
This is the piece where, our allegiance to the conscious thinking mind and to knowing can really get in our own way, right? These things are happening at a sub and unconscious level. They're happening lightning speed, and oftentimes it's happening outside of our awareness. So all the more reason to get really curious and become an observer of one's own state, because we can't always know what is a safety cue, what is a trigger in that sense. We hear the word trigger a lot, and in pop psychology and on Instagram and all this stuff.
But we always think we know when it's happening because suddenly we get angry. But we could be triggered by things we're completely unaware of, things that are outside of our memory of having perceived them.
Right. And this brings me back to the cascade piece as well, right? Because it's like the neuroflexibility. It's, like we may be triggered, move into, let's say, survival mode, which for the purpose of this discussion, let's say is like a state of upregulation or safety preservation. So not a true collapse, but something that's outside of like healthy generative curiosity, anything that's like a little more intense where the vigilance is now like the vigilance is on, right?
Yes, so, vigilance on, therefore defense is fully arrayed. That's a whole different state than open curiosity and exploration. It's the opposite. We start closing down and withdrawing, moving from alert curiosity through vigilance, then to fight, then to flight. And then, it could get more intense from there. That could go into fawning or freezing or ultimately collapsing. These are all states. But people are not aware. We're in many versions of those states all day long, moment to moment. We're cycling through. We see something we find mildly offensive on social media, and we're like, oh, that person and what they said, and I don't think so. Or we have a thought that we find faintly embarrassing, and we go into this internal state of collapse and blush, and our heart rate changes, and we feel like, oh my God, I don't deserve to live. I just had that thought. This is happening internally and externally. We can do it to ourselves. We can receive the cueing from outside our bodies in our external environment, but we are always moving through states.